All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Global Card Collectors. Obviously, I am not one of the people you're accustomed to hearing say that. I'm Justin. I think I counted up the other day. I've been a guest on here 8 times now. And as I think Will and John, as we mentioned in an episode that we aired a bit ago, I'm kind of stepping in to start hosting some episodes here and there. So this is my first one, so I may not quite be as polished as Will and John are yet, but we're going to talk cards, we're going to show cards, and most importantly, the key to any good first hosting experience is I have an insanely awesome guest on tonight to talk to. With us tonight, we have Jason Bousquet, and he has one of the most complete and diverse collections that I've seen. So actually, it's funny because when Will and John approached me about doing this, in terms of, me thinking, who am I going to get to talk to? The first thing I did was go to my Instagram and, fun story about Jason. I was in contact with him a little bit before. He actually sold me my very first boxing card, the 1910 Mecca side view Jack Johnson. So we've been in contact before, and I'd always admired his collection. And I think you guys will see why. He is a very diverse collector. He is has some amazing cards, and he's just a good dude. So I reached out to him, and very fortunate he said yes. And so we're just going to kind of, if you've seen the episodes with me before, you know that structure, you might be in for a little bit of a lengthy episode tonight, but we're going to do our best to just kind of talk about some hobby things, get to know Jason a bit as a collector, and most importantly, show a ton of cards. So yeah, Jason, if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you jump back in the hobby, and just kind of how you approach collecting.
Yes, sir. I truly appreciate that, intro and everything. I am Jason, 45. I originally started in the hobby around 1988, 1989. Uh, I collected until like probably 94, 95. And at that time, like everybody else, you're in high school. Um, I played sports, so shoot, that was the like main, and then also girls and just everything else. But as a younger child, I was a true collector in every sense of the word. I collected everything. I was a only child, so I did all the nerdy stuff of collecting coins, comics, cards, rocks, like everything. So anyway, so yeah, so I collected. I was a huge San Francisco Joe Montana guy. Shoot, Joe Montana. What everybody is with like the Tom Brady is how Joe Montana was back then. And so I was a huge, shoot, Joe Montana guy. Uh, and honestly, to this day, I still have my childhood binder, with most of my childhood Joe Montanas. But anyway, so I collected probably 88, 89 through like 94, 95, like I said. And after that, I was gone. Had a child around 2021. So I had to grow up quick. Life happened. And then spiral into, it was around 2015. Uh, uh, my wife and I went to an antique shop, and I saw a Joe Montana rookie. Growing up, that was my grail. And actually, in our hometown, we had a store, and it had everything. Coins and cards and everything else. And he had like the Joe Montana rookie.
Hmm.
Obviously, I wasn't raised with money, so when I would buy stuff, it'd be like a dollar,
Hmm.
whatever. And so I used to go there, and in like the glass case, like the Joe Montana rookie was on like the bottom. And at that time, it was like 200 something dollars, which seemed crazy to me. But I would get down and stare at it and be like, man, someday. So 2015, we go to an antique shop and we're just looking around, and yeah, and there's a Joe Montana rookie there, and actually I have it right here,
Oh wow.
and it's raw. It probably grade maybe a two, maybe a three.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, like
done
about
it.
the glare,
No, no, that's good.
but and it's so weird because I mean prior to that I never even really thought about cards. I saw it and I was like, man. And I told my wife, I said, shoot, that's the Joe Montana rookie card. And she's like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, shoot, that was the card I always wanted. I have a incredible wife. Anyway, so we leave, and probably 2 days later, she gives it to me.
Wow.
And this is what actually started what turned into what I'm where I'm at now. It opened up the floodgates of like, okay, now I have my grail, so to speak. Let me, try to, see what's out there and stuff. So obviously the hobby was a lot different. eBay was there and everything else, and so I just started buying stuff and just, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So yeah, so make a long story short, I started buying cards and I was just learning and everything else, and yeah, so that was the introduction into like the hobby, so to speak.
that's awesome. And dude, I can't help but kind of, and I think we kind of talked about this when we spoke on the phone a bit ago, relate to the fact that kind of a gift of one of those childhood cards that you really wanted got you back into it. Because I had the same thing in 2018. It was, I don't have it with me out here, but it was the Topps traded Barry Sanders rookie. Not even the score, the Topps traded Barry, because I'm a Lions guy. Barry Sanders is he is to me what Montana is to you. And a buddy of
Oh
mine
yeah,
that
man, he's the
started,
greatest running back I've ever seen,
me
hands
too.
down.
And I think I could say that unbiased because he was
Oh
just
yeah.
something. But I got that card in my hand from my buddy, that 1989 traded Barry Sanders, and that just kicked it off. So one of the interesting things I think that I you know think with you is a little bit unique. Like you and I both kind of collect some of the same things. We both do football. We both do vintage football, boxing, which we may talk a little bit more about later. We're both in that niche a little bit. But talk a
Okay.
little bit about what all you collect, because you're actually far more diverse than that even.
Yeah, honestly, I was an athlete and I was a hardcore athlete. I ran track, okay. I played other sports earlier, but I was really good at track, like exceptionally well. I ran a varsity as a freshman.
Wow.
I got a track scholarship. Like that was my thing. So I appreciate all sports. I understand what goes into it and everything else. And plus, I love competition. So my collecting is, yeah, it's a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? I love sports. I love competition. So I mean, shoot, I mean, when I got in, it was a learning curve in, I mean, with like the card aspects of it. But I knew the players that I liked watching, growing up. So like in basketball, obviously Jordan, he was special. I also liked Allen Iverson. I loved Kobe Bryant, like his work ethic and everything. Football, obviously San Francisco players, but also I mean, shoot, Barry Sanders. Emmett Smith got a lot of love, but I mean, Barry, he did it on his own, man, and he was a highlight reel. So, you know what I mean?
For those out there who aren't
Um,
as big of football fans, I'll just make clear Emmett Smith was a great back, but he played behind one of the best offensive lines in NFL history. Barry Sanders played behind guys that Jason or I might be able to beat out for a position. So there's some context there for why Barry is a better choice than Emmett Smith, in my opinion.
I have a really cool story, okay? In high school, and again, I was a huge San Francisco guy. And I mean, at that time, you're talking about like 95, 96. uh it was us and I mean, like the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Every year, it was either one of us in like the Super Bowl. And so my neighbor was a huge Cowboys guy, and at that time, I lived in Killeen, Texas, and
Okay.
Austin is about an hour drive. And the Cowboys had their training camp in Austin at St. Thomas University, I think, or whatever, a small college in Austin. And so he asked me, "Would you want to go?" And I was like, "Okay, cool, bro." Even as a 49ers fan, watching greatness, it was, I think, it was the year that actually Dion went to the Cowboys. We had him, I think, 94, 95. So it was the year after. So
95,
I think,
96.
yeah, dude, I'm in the Cowboys training camp, and there's Aikman, Emmett,
Yeah.
Irving, and Dion. He pulls up in like a golf cart, and he's got speakers and just music bumping. And dude, even as a 49ers fan, I respected what they had. It was a
Yeah.
great team. You know what I mean? Tons of stars, and it was just like a really cool experience. So yeah, man. So like, yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. Will's gonna love that, by the way. I know you haven't met John and Will, who usually host, but Will is the '89 score. Deion Sanders was the first vintage football card. I kind of coaxed him into buying when I started doing that. So yeah, so
Really?
he's captivated. Yeah, he likes prime time. But you mentioned track and field, so I had to, I anticipated that this one might come up. This was another card Jason talked me into. Was this 1937 Ogden's Jesse Owens card? It's the only track card I have, and I actually talked to Jason before I bought it about a year ago. And you convinced me of you kind of guided me to that particular card, but also kind of got to talking a little bit about, because one thing that I was concerned about was this fits with nothing else in my collection. I love it, but it fits with nothing else in my collection. And that's when you started talking to me, I think for the first time, and we've had several discussions since about how you collect, about, you don't have to go down every rabbit hole and collect everybody in every sport, but you can pick guys from each sport that sort of, represents something to you, that are important to you. And I was just curious because this is one of the so Jason's really, I think, at this point underselling how awesome his collection is. I'm serious. This guy's got everything
Yeah,
from
I
Jackie
appreciate that, man.
cards to, I mean, Kobe Bryant, really rare Kobe Bryant rookie cards, and everything in between. So it's like, just in terms of how you focus yourself when you are, kind of targeting cards from so many different sports, and not just, and again, there's nothing wrong. If somebody wants to go out there and buy boxes and boxes of commons and that's what they do, like I'm a big advocate for, is, if you like looking at your cards and you're having fun, you're doing it right. But I think it's a little easier if you're buying, a lot more lower end stuff to be in multiple sports. You obviously have a lot of stuff that's a little bit more on the high end, and you still manage to do it right, because when we've talked, I know you're not like, some guys can do that because there are, multimillionaires and don't have a budget. I know you and I have both talked. We both have budgets. So, just a little bit, if you could talk about how you kind of organize your collecting and focus yourself when you're trying to go into so many different sports in that way.
Sure. So I got in 2015. Okay, at that time, everything was a lot cheaper. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to trade war stories, I bought Babe Ruth strip cards. I can remember this. Everybody has certain cards they sold that they regret. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I bought two Ruth strip cards for $300. Now
Oh,
they go for anywhere from like 12 to $2,000 a pop.
yeah. Easy four
So
figure.
I bought two for 300.
Wow.
Okay. Um, Everything was pretty cheap and everything. So I've had three actual collections. Collection one was the reintroduction into the hobby. I bought almost everything raw, and I bought just everything that I liked and looked cool and was in, uh, my price point. Uh, we'll say. So, and again, at that time, everything was pretty cheap. Ruth Gaudi's were about 800 to maybe $1,200.
For
Now
context,
they're
what's a
like
one in
six.
that run now? Yeah, one in that's going to be what, like 5, 6 thousand, depending on eye appeal.
Yeah, if if not more, you know what I
Right.
mean? So, collection one was a learning reintroduction. So I built that, and it was majority raw. And then at some point, I was like looking around, and I was like, you know what? Let me sell this, restart. And so that's what I did. And I sold a good portion of it on, social media, and I restarted again. And then, collection number two was a little bit more of like the graded. And I had some cool stuff, man. I had a Sporting Life Ty Cobbs.
Wow.
It was a PSA 3, dude. I bought it for $900. $900. And as a collector, everybody, and I'm sure everybody can relate, you have these price points that you go through. $100. Once you once you break that barrier, it gets easier to do it again. And then $500, it gets easier to do it again. That Ty Cobb, man, it was a guy on eBay, and he was selling a car and like all kinds of high end stuff, and he had like the Ty Cobb. And it was a PSA 3. I bought it for like $900. And I bought, shoot, Joe DiMaggio's, shoot, graded cards. I bought a lot of cool stuff, man. And it was more graded, higher end,
Yeah.
more. Let me get quality over just random stuff, and I built a pretty cool collection. And then, like the COVID era came, and bro, I had volume too. So when Kobe Bryant, when he passed, dude, his stuff shot
Yeah.
up. So like even raw Kobe Bryant rookies were like 10 times the value. And then COVID. So I started selling stuff because I walked into the room, and what used to be like maybe $18,000 in a collection was like 90,000 dollars worth of stuff. And I'm just a normal guy. I work a normal job. I'm not from money. That's a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
So, and just like the profit margins. So, I told my wife, and the funny thing is I have such an incredible wife. Like she trusts everything that I say. And I used to tell her all the time, like, hey, I have some money in that room. And she'd be like,
Mhm.
yeah, I know, babe. I know. When I started selling, dude, I sold, and it took me about probably 3, 4 weeks. I made $90,000
That's
during
insane.
the the COVID spike. I remember I screenshotted my savings account because I had over $100,000 in there. And it was just like, it was crazy times. And also, my buddy Bart, he sold even more. So I mean, it was one of those. I love the hobby, but man, if you can make six,
So,
7, 8 times what you paid, it's crazy not to try to cash in.
and that's where you're a little bit unique to me, is because most of my really close hobby friends, at least, are people that sort of got in either post COVID or like myself, like directly pre
Yeah.
COVID, where we hadn't had a chance to build much up yet. So it's like that's another thing that was interesting in talking to you. And also, I know Bart's talked about it a little on his channel. If people aren't familiar, Bart's Cards is a really good YouTube channel. He and
Oh
Scott,
yeah. Awesome guy.
yeah, awesome guy. Him and Scott of Scotty
Yeah.
Tradition actually do the Football Card Hall of Fame, which I vote in every year, and I think it's awesome. So, but he's talked about that too, and it's interesting to see that perspective, because I think, yeah, like myself and I know Will and John, we were sort of like either right before COVID or once COVID started, we got back in, so didn't have that kind of same opportunity. So it's interesting because obviously you did that, which was obviously financially made a lot of sense at the time, like you said. But since then, you have again pursued building up your collection in a very diverse way. So just, yeah, so how you've gone about that and been able to like kind of choose what you're going to go after in this third iteration of your collection.
Yeah. So basically, I sold everything. Make a long story short, we bought a condo in Galveston with like the money.
Wow.
And so it was a win for the family. I felt really good because shoot, that's a big deal. It's and I used to tell her like, "See, I told you it was worth something, right?" But anyway, but immediately I was like, I have an empty room now. Like I got to get back into this.
Because as
But see
collectors,
how
we can't stand the empty shelves, right?
yeah,
We
I
feel
mean,
like
yeah,
you sold because it made sense, but at the end of the day, you're a collector. You still love cards.
yeah,
So look at those empty cases. I can
yeah.
imagine it fit well.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, like the chase, any true collector understands the chase is
Hmm.
the like the best part.
Yeah.
When there's and I mean it could be anything. It could be comics, it could be coins, it could be stamps. I don't know. When you have grail pieces that are so rare that you've been chasing them for years and it
Hmm.
finally you get it, it's it's like a big rush. So anyway, yeah, so I sold everything and I started rebuilding. And I mean, I will be honest, how I collect is very different because a lot of people really go off of what everybody else does.
Hmm.
Social media is a
Yeah.
big influence. But the problem with that is if everybody is going after the same stuff, it's going to be high priced and everybody's after it. So even with the prior collections, I was like, okay, cool. So this is expensive. What is it that's undervalued? So, like
Yeah.
as an example, I'll show you this. Okay, as a San Francisco
Oh,
guy,
that's
and
sweet.
sorry, like about the like the glare. Uh, any San Francisco fan, the catch is the game that changed us,
Yeah.
bro. This is now 1,000 to probably $1,200 car, or well,
Okay.
I mean game ticket. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
I paid $26.
just for
I
context,
paid 20.
if we have non-football fans out there, Google the catch. That is one of if you that is probably one of the top 10 moments in football history. I mean, you as a Niners guy, it's probably even more special to you. But dude, that
Oh
is,
yeah, I mean it changed everything.
yeah.
But like I said, when I bought that, nobody was buying game tickets.
Wow.
Cards, yes, no game tickets.
Hmm.
So like the guy was asking, I think like 30 something dollars, and I
Same.
talked him down to 26, bro. And also, you showed your Jesse Owens, and everybody has these stories. I can remember because again, I try to look at stuff outside the box. What is everybody not looking at? And in sports, there are iconic moments and experiences and
Mhm.
everything else. Jesse Owens, I ran track and I kick myself in the butt every day. There was a guy selling the Jesse Owens Olympic tickets for like $60 each, all of
Oh,
them. But
wow.
$60 was a lot to me, so I didn't do
Sure.
it. Now those tickets are like ridiculous. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I did buy this one, and it's a 1900.
Ooh.
It's uh, I mean, like the modern day Olympics started in
Wow.
1896 in Athens, where
Yeah.
it, I mean, originally, started. I bought that for probably $12 or something. But
Wow.
just what I'm saying is that I was buying stuff that other people weren't looking at. So like I bought newspaper clippings, I bought like magazines. I was buying stuff that was under the radar. And if you do that as a collector, you can find really good deals. Uh, but I mean, with this collection, number three, I decided this after selling exactly two collections. I noticed that having graded cards is obviously
Mhm.
easier to move if
Right.
I ever decided to. If you're selling raw, you have to be like, it has a crease, it has this. You have to send all these extra pictures and everything else. If it's graded a three or a four, you send two pictures, front and
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
This is what it is. This is what I want. Boom. So this collection was hyper concentrated on grading and just specific players, specific sports, and everything else. Also, at the beginning, I said to myself that I was only going to concentrate on San Francisco. That was it. I was like, I am going to build an incredible San Francisco collection. Uh, I had a crazy San Francisco collection, but I got to be honest, I was kind of bored. I
Yeah.
had 320 Joe Montanas graded, most of
Oh,
them tens, most of them tens, most of them in boxes. And it was just like, okay, cool, but I like other sports. I like
yeah.
other stuff. You know what I mean? And just something that I learned in life is this: you have some people who are good at one thing, the greatest at that one
Yeah.
thing, and that's cool. And then you have some people who are really, really good at a lot of stuff. And I decided as a collector, I want to be really, really good at a lot of stuff. I
Mhm.
want variety. It keeps it interesting and it keeps it kind of fun. So this collection, it has a lot of San Francisco, but I scaled way back. I sold off a bunch of the San Francisco stuff, especially like the Commons and just the
Mhm.
stuff really didn't resonate. And then I started creating lists. I'm a big list guy. I know that sounds nerdy, but like, I mean, if you go onto my iPhone, I have like list of like, what what I wanted, and then I would, check mark it as I got them. So that's what I started to do. And it was just, I mean, really concentrated on specific cards, specific players. So, like, as an example, okay, so like as an athlete, okay, so like if you go hockey, okay,
Yeah.
I was born in 79, high school in 90s. Hockey, not a big hockey guy, but if I had to choose one hockey guy, Wayne
Well,
Gretzky.
and I
So,
And if you had to choose one hockey card, I think that is probably the most iconic hockey card out there. That's it. So,
Yeah.
incredible.
And so that was going to be my representation of hockey in my collection. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, because like the awesome part of about this is it's about you. Everybody has like their goats or whatever. Gretzky growing up was the man, dude. He was everywhere. I mean, LA, he was just the man. Okay, soccer. I get it. Messi, Ronaldo, probably the greatest of all time. But David Beckham, when I was growing up in like early 20s, he was the man, dude. He was
That's what's up.
cool. All the girls liked him. Like, you know what I mean? And he was an awesome soccer player. So I got his rookie card. Okay. And then also tennis. Obviously, this guy isn't the GOAT, but he was cool, man. He reminds me of my childhood. Okay. Andre
I have
Agassi.
never seen that card before. That is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, like about the glare too.
No,
My
you're good.
lighting is like he was, dude. I mean, he was cool. You know,
He
sports
was,
isn't
dude.
just
He
yeah,
had the
sports
long
isn't
hair. He was a dude. I wasn't a big tennis guy. If I
yeah.
would pick,
I wasn't either,
I would pick Andre Agassi.
but he was everywhere.
Oh, he
Yeah,
was.
and see, and sports in general, yes, you know, you have to be good. But if you're interesting, if you have that superstar, whatever, charisma, it helps too. You know what I mean? He
Well,
had that.
and that's hobby relevant.
So,
Like sometimes the guys that you want to collect, for example, there's a lot of better baseball players out there than Mickey Mantle, for example. Um,
yes,
well, Mickey Mantle is probably the most collectible player across the hobby. His cards are the most expensive, if you think too. I mean, historically, you look at greatest boxers of all time, and I know you're a Jack Johnson guy, just like I'm a Jack Johnson guy. There were better fighters than Jack Johnson, but I don't know that there's a boxer that's more collectible than Jack Johnson. So what you're saying resonates because it comes down to sometimes the guys we like to collect are guys that resonate, guys who have a story, guys who are interesting, right? Yeah, talent's a big part,
yes,
but being interesting and having some form of connection and having a story that for whatever reason we connect with. I feel like that's a part of it too.
yeah. And just like the collecting aspect is this: I didn't want a lot. I wanted a quality representation
Mhm.
of every sport, of every player that I appreciate. So, like Jack Johnson,
Yeah,
like you said, I think he's so undervalued.
100.
And it's like, I am a history guy. I love history. I'm a history nerd in every aspect of the word. I love documentaries. I love learning. If you look into boxing, what that man accomplished, what he overcame, and how he lived his life, Jackie Robinson gets love, and he deserves it. But dude, Jackie did. I mean, Jack Johnson did it years before him, and
Yeah.
he did it his way. So Jack Johnson, I didn't want a bunch of his cards. I wanted this
Is that
one,
the
and it
is that the 1912 Cohen? Yep.
yes,
Yep.
I wanted eye appeal. I wanted a good, I mean, a good grade and just one card. And this one, it spoke to me. So this is the one Jack Johnson that I have. And he's a legend, bro. And a lot of people don't understand how he did things. But yeah, so like,
And I love
yeah,
that. I mean, I remember, so I've talked a lot about Jack Johnson on the boxing episodes I've done in this channel. And I mean, I knew about Jack Johnson prior to getting into collecting boxing, but I remember, man, when I first thought about, scratching that pre-war itch and figuring out, hey, boxing's a good way for me to do that. When I came across that mecha side view on your eBay store, that
yeah.
1910 man, and I've shown that one on this channel before. It was like I reached out to you and we talked about Jack Johnson, and you said something. You're like, to me, Jack Johnson is the most important fighter in history, and 100% agree with that. I'm going to use this as an excuse because this is the only Jack Johnson card I have that I have not shown on this channel before. It's my most recent Jack Johnson pickup, and actually, at this point, I think it's my favorite Jack Johnson card I own. And it's the 1910
Sweet deal,
American
bro.
E77 Jack Johnson. This is one of the,
Yeah.
he has an E75 1910 American
Beautiful,
Hero,
beautiful
but this
card.
one's more, I love the colors on this, the pose on it, and it's a bit
Yeah.
more than the E75. So I figured you'd give me an excuse to show that one at some point. So
Hey,
I'm not going to miss
hey,
an opportunity.
anytime you want to show a Jack Johnson card, show it.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah.
And I love that one too. That's one I don't have yet. That one and a couple others are on my very short list that I want to pick up by the end of the year because I like that set. I have some other cards from that 1912 Cohen Ween set. It's a nice set. I like the simplicity of it, the poses. It's a cool set.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
S- so just like this collection was well planned out. Um, baseball as an example. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. As an athlete, I sucked at baseball. If I
me
wasn't
too.
good at a sport, it wasn't one of the sports that I loved. But I love the history of baseball. And that's again what I'm saying. If you learn about these guys and the errors, you'll you'll gravitate towards their cards. I mean, because it's a representation of who they are. So, like, speaking about
Wow.
Jackie, I wanted one Jackie. Now, everybody loves the Leaf. I got to be honest, I'm not a big fan. Again, I'm very different in the aspect of like I don't really go with what everybody else likes. I go with what I like. He's smiling here.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful card. Leaf, he looks kind of awkward. It didn't resonate and it was a lot more expensive. So this is a lower grade, but it has great eye appeal and I love it. You know
And
what I
that's
mean?
49 Bowman. That's also a Jackie rookie, by the way. For those who aren't as familiar with vintage baseball,
Yes.
I mean that's still his rookie, and I like that one better myself. And it's funny because man, we've talked about this. I'm not a I don't get into vintage baseball cards simply because, like you, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I love baseball cards because if you look at the history of cards, I mean, back in pre-war era, right, baseball really and boxing are kind of the two where you have kind of a rich history there. As far as some pre-war stuff, baseball even more so, obviously, in terms of iconic cards. But it's just the price point is so high to get into some of that stuff. But I will say this: Jackie Robinson's a guy that I think at some point I will own one of his cards. My two favorites are the one you just showed, and I love his 1950 Bowman. Quite frankly, his 1950
Yes,
to me is a
yes. A
beautiful.
lot of people don't. I love that one. It's a beautiful card too. But again, I had to choose one.
Yeah,
When I did baseball, I had a list and it was going to be certain players, one card only.
see,
That, card resonated. It has Dodgers like across
yeah,
his chest,
it's a
like
great
the
card.
colors. It was just the card I wanted.
And the
You know what I
thing
mean?
is, which is funny because I've realized in talking to you, and I know that at the very least, I think Will's going to find this funny too, because Will and I always kind of joke about our attention span kind of being that of a gnat, where we'll like be on one thing and then kind of like, we'll think we're very focused collectors, and then we'll be like, oh, this over here, I have to buy this, and not necessarily full on impulse buys, but like when I hear you talk, despite the fact you're in so many sports and so many different avenues of collecting, you keep it all straight because you have lists, you're very organized. And I mean, I think it's funny because we associate focused collectors with like, oh, I only collect, football cards from 1948 to 1989 or something like that. Okay, so that person must be a focused collector. Well, not really, because you don't know how much they jump around within that. Like myself, I collect football and boxing, and that's it. But I think I am very capable of jumping from one thing to another within that and just having a list and then being like, well, yeah, but this other thing interests me, which is all well and good because I have fun with it. But it's just, I guess what I'm saying is the way you do things really kind of, I guess to me, shatters a stereotype a bit where you're actually like, my impression is you're a very focused collector. across sports.
Yes,
And
I am.
would you say you have to be if you want to be in that many sports and kind of not go broke or get divorced? Do you think that your method is the most effective way to do that?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I learned over the years quality over quantity.
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube of people having thousands, if not millions, of cards. I wanted a collection that was small enough that I could try to display it, appreciate it, and it was all quality stuff. And that's why I sold a bunch of like the San Francisco stuff because I had all the players. I mean, comments. I mean, guys
Yeah.
who never played early years in San Francisco, and they're great cars, but who cares? I
Yeah.
mean, for the most part. So again, I try to concentrate on people that I appreciated, respected, and then I try to choose one of each. So like I mean, continuing on baseball.
Oh,
I mean,
I just
I
saw a
mean,
peek at that. That is a phenomenal card.
Satchel Paige is, I mean, another legend. And side by side, dude, it's
Beautiful.
just,
Same set, right? Those are both
bro.
going.
That's
Yeah.
yes, like I mean, like these are my grails, and the best part about it, and like there's a guy on IG. Okay, his name is Matty C.
Oh, I know who he is. Yep.
Yes, you go on social media and it can be kind of jaded. A lot of people have high grade stuff, even old stuff.
Hmm.
And if you have a PSA 1 or whatever lower grade card, it makes you kind of feel like, man, I'm not in the same boat. But I got to be honest, I've never been like the kind of person who brags about, like, I spent thousands on this.
Yeah.
I respect the person who has quality at a cheaper price. Like it's a PSA 1 that appears like a PSA 3 at a price at a 1. And so like he does that and I love how he collects and that's how I do it. So like I mean a lot of my like higher end stuff is in a lower grade, but I try to concentrate on eye appeal over grade. I mean, because sometimes it drops a grade. I mean, because of a
Hmm.
very minor thing you can't even see. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, and I think that you hit on two good points there. And before I say that though, for anybody in the audience that's not familiar with Satchel Paige, Google Satchel Paige. He's probably the greatest all time Negro League
Legendary,
baseball player. Him and Josh Gibson
legendary.
probably.
Oh,
One of
Josh.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really his story for how he ended up in the major leagues. Fantastic. So Google that. That's another guy where I would love. That's again not a vintage baseball guy, but I love that card, and I think that's awesome. But I think you bring up two good points with the grading thing, and one is I think this one gets talked about a lot on various YouTube channels. Is eye appeal over grade, and I fully 100% agree with that. And I think that gets talked about a lot and rightfully so. But I think another thing too that I think you're getting at a bit, which I really believe in, and I think one of my things in the hobby that I think we need to do a better job of highlighting is just how cool it is to own some of these vintage cards in any condition. With some of this stuff where we're going way back, right? To 30s, 40s, but even beyond that, if we're talking about early 20th century, or for example, you saw this one the other day. I just posted it on IG. I've never shown this one on the channel before either, so I'm looking for an excuse. This is an
Sweet
1888
Joe.
cigarette, John O'Sullivan. I've talked about John O'Sullivan before. He was kind of America's first
Legend.
sports star as a boxer. You can't see it too well on here, but it's got a massive crease right here. There's 13 of these graded. I don't care that there's a big crease. It's like, sometimes it's just cool to own stuff. Because, like you, Jason, I'm a history guy. It's cool to own stuff that feels like, it's a tie to history. It's cool to own stuff that's iconic, right? Like, even if you have a copy that's, your copies of that Jackie Robinson card look great. even if you have one of those and it's a little bit beat up and doesn't have the best eye appeal, so what? You own a Jackie Robinson rookie card, and I think that's something in the hobby that, especially in the vintage space, I think sometimes we get too occupied with grades and all that, and that's fine if you can do that. If that's something to where you can get the high grade stuff, I'm not jealous of that. I think it's cool that people have that opportunity, but I think just highlighting for especially like newer vintage collectors, that it's just awesome to own stuff. It's just cool to own things that are historical, and I think that's, yeah, another point that I take away from what you were saying a little bit.
I will be honest, if you're collecting the right way, grade doesn't even play into it. If
Agreed.
you're if you're buying the right stuff, it's rare.
Hmm.
Rarity, like as an example, okay, football.
Yeah.
That's my sport other than track. If you're buying the right stuff, there might only be 20 graded
Hmm.
overall. Who cares if it's
Yeah.
authentic? A 10. Lynn Dawson is a legendary Kansas City Chiefs quarterback. His rookie card is 1963 Fleer,
Hmm.
okay? And that alone is a pretty rare card.
And that's a cool card.
It is. But you know what's cooler than a 1963 Fleer is a
Yeah.
1961 National City when he played
That's
with
cool.
the Cleveland Browns. And it's graded authentic. Who cares though?
How many of those even exist? I've seen those on
I would
like,
have to check the pop again. It
it's
isn't a lot though.
I've never seen
I
somebody.
want like the Jim Brown. I want the Jim Brown of this one too. But who cares?
No,
I
not
mean,
this.
it looks good and it's hand cut too. So what does a grade have to do with it? Like it's hand cut. You know what I mean? But again, in any grade,
Yeah,
this is special.
yeah.
My buddy, uh, he's into comics. Growing up, I bought GI Joe comics. I was an army brat. You know, I lived
Mhm.
overseas. My dad was in the army for like 24 years. So, army stuff was how I grew up. So, like GI Joe resonated. I was a big GI Joe guy. So I bought GI Joe. Like the comics. Like the toys, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Anyway, so he's a big comic guy and I love art, and comic art is cool.
yeah,
Okay, so diving into comics, and it's the same thing in comics. If you go way back, there might only be 12 graded copies.
wow,
12 people on
yeah,
planet Earth own a graded copy of this book.
yeah,
Grade doesn't even matter. It could be beat up.
yeah.
You're one of 12
Agreed.
people on planet Earth, billions of people. So that's how I try to do, a lot of stuff. Like, as an example, where's it at? Hold on. Andre the Giant,
There you
legendary,
go.
okay?
Legendary. Yeah.
Legendary wrestler. He has a, good Lord, I think a 1981 card that has the Hulk, Ric Flair. It's an expensive set, expensive, and it's like 81 or 82. I forget. Everybody wants that card. Here's a 1974 Andre the
Cool.
Giant, and on the back it has like shoot Japanese writing, but it's a cool depiction of him, and it's years prior to that card. This I think is actually cooler. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
And who
I'm
cares? And it's graded a 3, but it appears good and it's a cool card. Again, I feel like in general as a hobby, we do and follow what everybody else does.
Yeah.
And I'm not like that. I wasn't a very popular kid and everything else, so I don't really give into peer pressure. I am who I am. I like what I like. And if I'm really being honest, I like being kind of different. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So even as a collector, if everybody's going right, I'm like, what's over here? Let me
Yeah.
see what's over here.
Yeah.
So, you know, and if you go left when everybody's going right, you can find incredible deals and find really cool stuff if you're willing, you know, I mean, like if you want to learn and like really look into stuff. And again, I'm a big nerd. I'll Google stuff. I mean, I'll try to find what I call unicorns, which are cards you never see. And if they pop up, I mean, majority of the people don't even know about it. So it isn't even in like their saved searches. And that's what I like. I like really trying to be different and have something that only a small population own. Like you said, baseball. Obviously, Hank Aaron. I have his rookie card, and it's an iconic, awesome
Yeah.
card. It is. It's awesome. But you know what I mean? I mean, I love like Babe Ruth, and I want a Ruth. Everybody loves his Gaudis, and that's
Yeah.
1933. Okay, it was at the end of his career,
Hmm.
and they're beautiful cards. I don't want a 1933. I want a I mean caramel 1922, 1923 card in his prime, in his peak, rare card. That's what I want. So as a collector, whatever it is that you chase, I would advise look into things, research it, see if there's rare stuff on, I mean, certain players, certain teams. Like there's all kinds of stuff out there that most people don't know. And if you're willing to do that, you can find some good deals and some truly amazing stuff. You know what I mean? So that's how I did what I did.
See, and I think that that definitely resonates with me in terms of some of the stuff I collect. I'll show you. And I've talked about this guy on the channel before, but one of my, my favorite players, athletes, I should say athletes to collect across sports is a guy named Sam Langford. This is my favorite Sam Langford card I own, 1910 Philadelphia Caramel. I talked about him on the boxing episode, Will and I did, but how many people have heard of Sam Langford? Not a ton. Do I think his story is
Exactly.
really cool, and have I loved learning about him? 100%. And I know that Will does cricket cards. He does rugby cards. I know John's, like a huge, he collects all the soccer. He's a Sacramento Kings, unfortunately for him, team collector. But so I think that resonates not just with me, but with those guys as well. But one question I have before I start, putting you on the spot to show some of your favorite cards that you kind of prompted in me here is, what has been your favorite sport that you kind of got into because of the hobby and started researching? Because you talk about researching some of these more off the beaten path cards. What's been your favorite sport to do that for?
I mean, I'm a big football guy,
Yeah.
but I have to say baseball's history
Interesting.
has been the most interesting. And it's cuz it's the I would say the oldest historical sport, if that makes any
Makes
sense.
sense. Yeah.
I mean, like the players in like the dead ball era. I mean, Rube Waddell. I mean, if you aren't a baseball guy,
What years is
especially,
that
oh,
ball era? Like I don't. I actually,
he's
honestly, must admit, I don't even know. So I'm curious.
he's dead ball era. I
Which
mean,
what
I mean,
years?
dead ball era is like pre 1920. So
Oh,
you're
okay.
talking about, I mean, like the T206s and
Gotcha.
just all that stuff. the dude was a character, and there's a bunch of guys like that, and it's just, again, if you learn about these guys, and just also, again, and I mean, again, I'm 45, so I'm getting older, and I don't
Yeah.
want to be the guy who's like, well, this generation. But dude, you know what? You can't really compare Joe Montana to Tom Brady. Just like
Correct.
you can't really compare Joe Montana to Johnny Unitas or
Yeah.
Sammy Ball. Those guys played in different eras. I mean, Tom Brady in Sammy Ball's era would have lasted 7, 8 years if he's lucky.
No, not even. No.
He wouldn't even last 20 years in Joe Montana's era because
Right.
Joe Montana, after he threw the ball, he still got hit. And that shortened his career.
Yeah.
So if you go way back to like the dead ball era, early 1900s baseball, those guys had jobs
Right.
off season.
So,
Baseball, it provided money, but they had jobs off
right.
season. They were a different breed, and they were grinders. Like they worked and just, you know what I mean? And if you learn about the stories of them, it's so interesting. And just, and then even if you go to like, uh, shoot, Ted Williams and stuff. All those guys that went to war
Right.
in World War II. No other athletes have done that since World War II. That's different. Shoot, Ted Williams gave up some of his prime
Mhm.
years to serve in the military. How
Yeah.
can you compare that to a Mike Trout, who's an incredible player, but dude, he's played every year.
Yeah.
So it's like, like I said, old baseball is just fascinating. The stories and the players it's just a really cool thing. So I would probably have to say old baseball.
That's
You know
cool,
what I
man.
mean?
Yeah, no, that's an awesome answer, and obviously, good anecdotes to back it up. Because yeah, that's makes a ton of sense. All right, so now we've kind of hit the point in the show that at least I know I've really been looking forward to. And I asked Jason to kind of prep 5 cards to show. One of his favorite basketball cards, baseball cards, football cards, so sort of one each from the big three, and then 2 other wild cards, 2 of his favorite cards from other sports that are maybe off the beaten path a bit or non-sports, whatever he decides to show. Word on the street is he may cheat a little bit and show a couple more cards and
Yeah, it's
you know
hard to choose.
I'm always game for any sort of rule bending that results in us seeing more cards. So what do you got? I say, what sport can we start with? Let's start with basketball. I don't think we've seen many basketball cards yet. You got some basketball lying around.
Yes. So again, I mean, like the cards are like your kids. You show a little bit of favoritism, but you got to show love to all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. So like Wilt Chamberlain.
Oh, is this going to
I
be a
think
61 clear?
yes. I think I think people don't understand how great he was.
Mm,
Bill Russell was an incredible player, but Wilt was incredibly good at offense and defense. Like scoring, if you check his statistics, if I'm remembering correctly, he averaged like 45 or something points a
mm,
game for a season. Like he was unstoppable, and then even also defense. Now his Fleer rookie card is expensive, so again, you have to do it on a budget. I have one. It's a little bit
ooh,
off centered. It's a PSA 2, but in my opinion, just owning a Wilt rookie card is a special
yeah.
card.
There
I
are
mean,
two
he's a
vintage.
legend.
there are two vintage basketball cards I'd love to own with everything in me. Even though I sold off all my vintage basketball years ago, I'd love to own a Bill Russell 57 tops, and I want to own that one, that 61 Fleer Wilt Chamberlain. Right when you
Sure.
said Wilt Chamberlain, I'm like, I think I ruined the surprise, but I got so excited. I'm like, is he going to show us 61 Fleer Chamberlain? That is sweet, dude. That is
He's
awesome.
awesome, dude. I mean, I actually have his whole run. I mean, because
Wow.
honestly, if I respect you as an athlete, I want all your cards. Even if it isn't like the highest grades, I want your run. Like
Yeah.
also Jim Brown, I have all
Good
his
choice.
cards. So
That's
next up, I mean baseball, basketball, or well, I mean we did basketball. So what do you want to do next?
Let's
Uh,
do
you
football.
want
Let's
to
see
do?
what you got. I'm curious what you picked for football.
I mean football. I'm very biased. Okay, I have three Joe Montana rookies. I already showed. I
Mhm.
mean, like the one that my wife bought, which is like I don't know, like a PSA 2. I remember I got a PSA 9, and at the time I paid
Wow.
$500, and I'm like stressing. I'm like $500 is a lot.
That is
This
thousands.
now, this I think is almost 2,000.
Yeah.
During the height of it, it was like 26, 2,700. But this is my grill. But I'm gonna cheat. I have a
Ooh.
also a signed Joe Montana
Oh, that
rookie.
is
It's
awesome.
graded like the card is graded a 7. So I think I appeal cool, and it's signed Hall of Fame inscription. This
That's
little
awesome.
Jason would have been geeking out right now. You know what I mean? So, but if you're talking about more like modernish, Randy Moss, dude.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's the
Yes,
98. Or
autographics,
yeah,
bro.
yeah,
I love this card. And even though he's not in a pro uniform,
yeah.
it's okay. It's because honestly, I watched him at Marshall. 98, I remember I was a senior. Manning was at Tennessee.
Yeah.
He was at Marshall breaking records with Chad Pennington, and
Yep.
then also Charles Woodson was killing it at Michigan. So, me personally, him in his college uniform resonates. And so I love this card. It's an early autograph and it's
Hmm.
just a beautiful card.
Yeah.
So football, more
Phenomenal.
modernish, Moss, and then overall Joe.
So, I mean, you and I have talked about both loving Randy Moss, and actually, on the last
Oh
episode
yeah.
that we did on '90s football that I did with Will and John, I showed a couple of my big Moss cards. I met him when he was at Marshall. I told you the story when they came out to play Central
Yeah.
Michigan, which was in my hometown. My dad was able to, pull some strings and get us into their open practice. Me and a few of my friends, and Randy Moss could not have been a nicer guy. He threw the ball around with us, and I've always collected him because of that. One of my big goals for this year is a Moss rookie auto. I almost pulled the trigger on one last year at the National, the '98 SP Players Inc. But there were just other things
Yeah.
that
I
were
know
a bit
that
more.
card.
It's a great card, and listen, I was a tough
Yeah.
choice, but there were just other things a bit more rare that I wanted to snag there. So, but this year, I mean, I do want to haul one of those in before the end of the year. So I love everything about them. Of course, the Montana, right? Like as a
Yeah. Well, I mean,
kid,
that's just a personal
that's like
preference. I have
but
a
that's
lot
like
of cool cards, but Joe is my dude.
yeah, and
Yeah,
that's a good
he's
choice.
my childhood.
So I'm
Yeah.
curious about baseball now. What we got floating around now?
So I mean, I showed Jackie, I showed Satchel, and those are special cards to me.
Yeah,
I love those cards. But the I mean, like the best baseball card I ever owned was the Sporting Life Ty Cobb.
yeah,
Unfortunately, that is now a probably $7,000 to $9,000 card. So it's out of my reach in
Right.
that grade. Even in a lower grade, it's a lot. But I wanted a Cobb.
Ooh.
So I had the red back
Wow.
Cobb portrait. But I'm going to cheat again.
I love it. I'm good with that.
As an athlete and as a man, I respect this player slash man. He was iconic. He lived an incredible life. He was an incredible player, and I truly respect him. And I think a lot of us do. Lou Gehrig.
I knew you were going to go Lou Gehrig. Wow, that is a great
Yes.
card. That's
I
the
mean,
30.
Iron
That was,
Horse, dude, with like the pinstripes. And this is an expensive card too. So it's only an SGC 1. But again, certain cards, just owning them in any grade
there's no only
is
with a 32
special.
Gaudy Lou Gehrig.
It's
That is one
special,
of those.
dude. Special players, special cards. Who cares what grade? You know what I mean? Okay,
That's
and then you said oddballs.
just whatever else you got. Whatever other two cards that you got that just speak to you and give you a little bit
I
off the
have a
beat.
lot of stuff, man, so it's hard to like really try to like, you know what I mean? I will say this. Okay, so I was born in 79. In 1989, Batman came out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, but that was
I remember
Batman
vividly.
Fever.
And I'll tell you
I
why. 'Cause
wanted a
bro, I was
huh?
5. I was 5 when
Uh-huh.
Batman came out, and my dad, there was like I can't remember all the details of this, so it's probably a little fuzzy. I don't know if my parents watch any of the YouTube stuff I do, but if they do, I apologize in advance, Dad. I'm sure I'm butchering this. My dad worked for a company that supplied like refrigerant equipment and stuff to Taco Bell, and Taco Bell was somehow involved in promoting the Batman movie. So my dad, one of the stores that he serviced was out in Irvine, California. So he went out there, and apparently they had all sorts of like Batman posters and hats and stuff. He brought me back all this Batman stuff from the movie, like the
Man,
movie poster, hat, shirt. But I was 5 years old. The
wow.
movie was PG-13, so my parents wouldn't let me go see it. So I was irate till I turned like 9 or 10, and I finally got to rent it from Meyer. I remember the day I finally got to rent that movie. So when you talk about like, yeah, dude, like that was for odd enough, that was a very impactful movie for me as well.
Bro, it was huge. I wanted a Batman t-shirt more than anything. I
Yeah.
never got one. But 1966
Oh, that is sweet.
Batman rookie.
That
I
is
love,
sweet.
and actually, again, if you research and if you look into stuff, this is the mainstream. There's another 1966
Wow.
Batman. If you look into things, so I have both, but I do. I mean, like the comics too, and I love Batman, Joker especially.
Yeah.
Joker's my villain.
That's a
So,
good
and
choice.
then yeah, and then number 2, gosh, growing up, and I guess this is probably towards my dad. I watched a lot of movies growing up, man. James Bond was cool, bro. He
Yeah.
was the man. He got the women, he killed the bad guys, he had the cool
Mhm.
cars. So, and Sean Connery was my James Bond. Roger Moore is a close second because he was suave and everything else, but
Nah,
Sean
I'm with you.
Connery, he was the man. So this is a 1965
That's
James
so cool.
Bond. And I mean, he's got his gun, he's in his suit. It's just James Bond, dude.
He just looks
You know what I
cool.
mean?
When I think of
He
Connery,
is cool,
that
man.
picture
James
catches
Bond.
me. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, oddball stuff. I would have to say these two.
That's
Again,
awesome.
I have a lot more stuff that I could show, and I could go on and on. But if I had to do oddball, not sports, only two, I would do those.
No, that's awesome, man. And yeah, like I'm actually pretty impressed with us that we're going to wrap up like inside an hour and a half. I know that might seem long for some people that have stuck it out this long, but I will say that, aside from my general rambling, your collection and the things you have are just so vast that, like, I mean, I feel like, yeah, we really could probably go on another hour and not see all of it. But, man, definitely appreciate you jumping on and telling us about this. Is there anything else, any like final thoughts you'd have to throw out to people or any other tips, anything before we jump off?
I would just want to say this. If you guys are on IG, there are some guys, even YouTube, there are some collectors that you could learn and just see some incredible collections. I mean, again, Matty C, how he collects and what he has, eye appeal, not even looking at like the grade, incredible collection. I mean, shoot, David
Yeah, Blue Jacket
Blue
66.
Jacket 66. Love him. Love
Yeah.
him, dude. And just his stories and his collection, I respect. It's just awesome stuff, man. Awesome content. You can learn a lot and see some cool stuff. Obviously, I mean, if you're doing football, I mean, Bart's cards, he's always got great stuff. Yeah. So just, I mean, if there's anything I can say is this: as a collector, don't always try to go after the trends. Learn, dive into things, investigate, and then, I mean, it opens up all kinds of like new things and just opportunities too that you never knew. So that would probably be the best advice. Everybody that, I mean, I talk to who tries getting in, I tell them all the time, learn. Just learn. In life, learn.
Yeah.
And the more you know, the better off you'll do. And that's just how it is. You know what I mean? Knowledge is truly the door to everything. So just learn, you know?
And on the topic of people on IG who have great collections and you can learn from, I know for the people watching on YouTube, they can see your IG handle down at the bottom there. But for the folks that are maybe just listening to the podcast, how can they maybe follow you on IG? What's your IG handle for those folks?
Yes, it is going to be the underscore Bousquet underscore collection.
Yeah. And again, like I think I reached out to Jason out of thin air and he was just incredibly cool about, chatting about the hobby and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah.
I would certainly throw you in that group. You mentioned, yeah, I know Dave Blue Jacket 66. Bart, we've had a little bit of interaction on IG and stuff. And yeah, just really I echo that. There's a lot of really, really great people out there with a ton of knowledge that are willing to share it. And at the end of the day, what I've found about people, even people with massive impressive collections is most people just want to talk about cards. We're all collectors, we're all doing our thing, and it's fun to establish some communities. So I echo what Jason said: research, learn, reach out. I mean, I'm fairly certain here I did not technology well, and it still just says my email at the bottom here, but I'm at vintage football 52, vintage FB 52, sorry, on Instagram. I think people know that by now, but just to throw that out there if anybody wants to reach out. Other than that, man, Jason, thank you so much. This has been an awesome conversation. You showed some amazing cards, and yeah, definitely
Yes,
appreciate you
sir.
taking the
I
time.
appreciate it, man, too. And just also, if anybody has any questions anytime too, reach out IG. I mean, I think all of us as, you know, like the collectors and stuff, we should help each other and just, try to direct each other, especially like the guys who have all this experience and everything. So, like, if anybody ever has any questions or just, want to try to talk or something, I'm always available on IG or just whatever. So,
And I
yeah.
can say when he says that, he means it because literally, I think I messaged you clear out of the blue, and here we are.
Yeah.
Now we're chatting on the phone and talking and everything, and it's just yeah, so but that's cool of you to say that, man. Thank you so much, and just thanks again, man. I think this has been awesome, and yeah, hopefully we do it again at some point.
Yeah. Well, yes, sir. I appreciate it too, man.
All right, brother. Have a good night.
Yep. Okay. Have a good
Take
night.
care. Bye.